Hi! So, this week's vlog is the first one about our second video game. And I got paired with a new group, which I was pretty happy with. They liked my art style from the previous game and reached out and wanted me to join on their team. So I did. We met 2 weeks ago for the first time, and the designer of the game had a really solid idea for this like coloring book style game, and that was really interesting to me because I'm an artist, and so we all kind of jumped on board. At that point, I think he had already told his idea to the producer and the programmer, because the programmer had already come up with like a little mock-up type situation of the mechanic behind a player taking color from an enemy and putting it back into the world. So our game is going to be like, there's going to be a player, and her job is to take the color back from the enemies and put it back into the world. And so she's going to have like tanks, and somehow the programmer has implemented this system where there's like tanks at the bottom of the screen, and you can fill up those tanks and pick which color you want and then paint parts of the world, which really you can paint all of the world. And so I'm really excited about our concept because it's something that I feel like I would enjoy playing. We haven't totally got rolling on our schedule, but I have started a lot of the graphics. I'm pretty much finished with our player's graphic. I haven't started the animations for her, but I'm hoping to really soon. And it is Tuesday right now that I'm filming this, so by the time this video is due on Friday, I might have some animations in the works. But right now I have her completed. The way we're having to do backgrounds, since they're going to be editable by the player, I'm making the whole background how it should be, and then I have to send the programmer individual objects of everything in the background, and then he's going to have to, him and the level designer, from what I understand, are going to have to basically build it back how I had it based on my drawing. And so that's going to require a lot of communication between us three, especially, to make sure that goes correctly. And the level designer has some pretty like wild ideas for what I can include in the background, so I've been discussing those with him and making sure we keep it simple enough to where the player can color things, but interesting enough to where the visuals aren't boring and it's a little bit more grown up than just a simple coloring book. So how you win the game, which is another thing that we've kind of had to really talk about, and which really they've had to talk about. That doesn't really change my graphics. So they've really had to talk about how a player wins the game. Like, is there a scoring system? Is it based on how much they color the world, how many enemies they defeat, whatever? And as of right now, they have settled on, if you color, I think it was a percentage, like 95% of the world, then you get to go to the next level. And to promote replayability, it's going to be really hard to hit that 95% because you're going to be able to move across the whole board, but if you miss something, you're going to have to go back and color it. So that's going to be part of the challenge, is finding the pieces that don't have color so that you can hit that percentage meanwhile you're still having to fight off enemies so that you can get colors in your tank. So I don't know if there's going to be a scoring system other than that percentage, but they're still talking about it, and so again, I'll update the videos on that. This week for me, I'm hoping to complete the entire background for the first level. There's going to be, they want to do 3, but we're kind of discussing that as well, because depending on like how much detail are in these levels, like it's going to take a lot of time, number 1, for me to draw them, and number 2, for the programmer and designer to put them back together, essentially, because I'm going to have to deconstruct them all, send them as separate files, and then they're going to have to put them all together. From what I understand, that's how it has to go. If there's an easier way, hopefully that we figure that out. Maybe there's something that I could do with the layers or whatever, but right now that's the plan. And so with that being our process, 3 levels is going to be pushing it, in my opinion. So I know for sure we're going to have a city level and then like a park, nature scene, and then if we wanted more of like a neighborhood for the third level. So this week I'm gonna work on the animation for her walk or run, and then I'm going to try to finish the entire scene for that first level. Right now I feel like we're pretty on track. I know a lot of other groups got their teams a lot later than me, so they weren't able to start on graphics as early as me. So I feel kind of ahead in that respect. I do need to jump on these animations because I know it's gonna take a while. Ooh, one thing that's different about this game is like, so she's gonna be able to aim with her arm. So her arm has to be like on a rotating thing. And so I had to send them a separate graphic of her like body and then her arm so that they could get that rotation. And so for the animations, I'm only gonna have to animate her body and her legs, not her arms. That will be something that kind of saves time on my end. So once I get going on the animations, I'll be really curious as to how that looks. For the jump animation, it's gonna involve her pointing her paint gun down and then it like almost like jetpacking her up. I think that was what they discussed being like a double jump. So she's gonna have a jump and then a double jump and then a walk. And then when she shoots at an enemy, the enemy is gonna like sucked into her gun. I cannot get the enemy illustration right. I know what I want it to look like, but every time I draw it, it looks like a rock or like sludge, but they have a really specific like idea that they want, and I understand it. I'm just having a hard time putting it into a visual, and so I'm still working hard on that. One thing that I got to learn about one of my teammates from the concept document where we have to write biographies about ourselves is that he did ballet, which I thought was super cool. He did ballet with the Charlotte Ballet, so he's like a professional dancer. This game is already going a lot better than the first one, which the first one was like kind of weird, you know, we didn't really know what to do, they didn't really know how to talk to us, and so I'm learning a lot more about how to manage that and how to essentially like speak their language, if that makes sense, which is still really hard because I feel kind of dumb talking to them sometimes, but that's just because we speak differently. You know, our artists speak differently than programmers, and so there's a gap there, but throughout this game, I'm learning more and more how to bridge it. In our last game, our programmer, and this might have been like me not asking, but didn't really show what he was working on to me, which kind of hindered my ability to visualize what was going to happen in the game. But with this game, he has already like done a full mock-up of it already, and he just needs my sprites. You know, in this game, I'm a lot more eager to send him things and do more because he's already like light years ahead of the first game that I was involved in. So that makes me feel really good about where we're going and what our end result will be. So I think that has given me and the programmers a little bit more motivation because we both feel like this is a much better match for us teammate wise. And so yeah, I'm just really excited for this game. So that is it for my reflection, and if I did anything extra, I will put it at the end of this video. Here's an update on the enemy graphic. We're a lot more happy with this little guy. I think there was still a couple things they wanted to change, and I'm gonna hop on that this weekend.